Welcome to Track Limits and Emotional Damage, where we talk all things racing. This is our weekly around the circuit of all things racing news, as well as today we are going to discuss episode 3 of season 8, Drive to Survive. Starting off this news, some interesting things. Obviously, the 4 hours at Nürburgring were yesterday for obviously Red Bull and the Mercedes team and Max Verstappen. It was a really interesting race. It was really great to watch. Some good racing at the very beginning of Max Verstappen and the Audi team back and forth. I forget the driver's name at the time, but good back and forth. And it was really cool. Verstappen and their team ended up winning the race by about almost, I think it was like 52 seconds. So quite a lead as well. But there's obviously been some controversy.
I know. As soon as we get a victory for Max Verstappen, it's taken away. Unfortunately, there was a hiccup in qualifying where they used too many tire switch outs, and so they were only allotted 6 tire switch outs and they used 7. It sucks, obviously, but I think with the new regulations and it's a new thing for them, so
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve.
Mm-hmm. My favorite was at the very beginning. They didn't think Verstappen was in the car, and then they're like, "Oh, he's the way that driver is harassing the safety car. It has to be him."
I know. They were like, wait a second. They're like, that's Max. They're like, oh, it makes
Yeah,
so much sense now. I know. It was fun to watch him, honestly.
yeah.
Like, obviously, all those cars are so cool to watch zip around the race. I think one thing I didn't realize, new to the Nürburgring circuit, is that you have like the professionals and then the like, I forget what they call it,
Yeah, the lower tier,
the other lower tier group. I
yeah.
didn't
I
realize they
wouldn't say
were
they're
on
lower
the track
tier.
at the
They're
same
just like
time.
more entry. Yeah, it is interesting, and that's I think 24-hour Le Mans at Le Mans is not. I think it's just the supercars, but I believe most of Le Mans, like the 24-hour races, have all the different classes of cars so that they can all be running.
Yeah.
Because realistically, like by the time, especially on Nürburgring, with how long it is, I mean, it's an 8-minute fast lap basically, and a 15-minute behind the safety car, trip around. So yeah, because I was laughing, I was looking at it, and it was like, I've watched an hour and they've only done 7 laps.
Yeah.
But
It was like
yeah, that's pretty
13
common.
miles of track or
I think it's
something.
pretty common, and it is interesting. They were saying, and I'm still kind of learning. I've watched 24-hour races and these endurance races. I'm still learning, but it's interesting because they're saying when like Verstappen or whoever's in the lead catches up to those cars, the passing is on. Like they don't have to give right away to the cars coming up on them. It's up to
Yeah.
the cars that are trying to pass. So it kind of adds another dynamic. Whereas like in Formula One, if you have a slower car, if you caught up to someone, that will get blue flagged, and then after so many blue flags, they can get penalized if they don't move out of the way. So it is interesting that you still have to fight. It adds that extra level of like they're not just going to let you through.
I think, yeah, and I wouldn't say lower tier, but they're not the manufacturer teams. I
Yeah.
forget what they're called, but yeah, it was just cool. It was fun. It was fun to watch. I think I kind of like those road races, and when they're more normal cars, it's just kind of cool to see what those cars are capable of, and I think the paint shops look cool too.
Yeah, there's a lot of really cool looking cars. Well, did you see the BMW one with all the like tweets? That was cool. I
That
really
one was
like that. I
cool.
love those like station wagons that BMW and Mercedes and Audi have those like really cool station wagons that they're just so powerful if you get them in Germany, which is really neat. Yeah, it was a really good race. Excited for the 24-hour. That's going to be an interesting one to watch. Obviously, probably every 4 hour driver breaks, and hopefully they get kind of some of these like semantic things figured out so that they're not getting disqualified after a pretty hefty win.
Suck.
So yeah,
Yeah,
and
he
kind of
earned it.
speaking of, obviously Max Verstappen is racing in a Mercedes car for the Mercedes team, but it is interesting because Mercedes is, they're definitely they're top of the order right now and top of the rumors of what they're doing and how they're doing it. So it's really interesting. I think a lot of people are really, really focused on this sandbagging aspect to, so that they can still dominate without giving anybody extra development time is kind of I believe, the theory at the moment. What are your thoughts on?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. They were like so far ahead, and I feel like the way Hamilton was walking around those cars, he knows what's up. Like
Mhm.
he's kind of like he ran with them for a while, so he knows when something's off, and I feel
Mhm.
like he has a good gut judgment on that. It'll be interesting because right now I believe Mercedes is under investigation by the FIA, and what they're doing is they're running the data again because basically they have the torque data from all the vehicles, and so they're
Mhm.
going to be running that Mercedes compared to the other Mercedes engines. And then if
Mhm.
there's a difference, then they can be like, well, yeah, because it's hard. It's like sandbagging is like a subjective. It's kind of a hard thing to prove, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
but I think they're
Well,
going to try to.
generally in Formula One, most Formula One teams will prove that the other is cheating by doing the
Yeah.
cheating.
So
So that's famously how Mercedes got caught with their fuel injection. Um, is Red Bull basically is like, well, they're going to do it. Oh, we'll do it, and this is how we
we'll do
know.
it too.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So.
it wouldn't surprise me. Obviously, there's a lot of a political aspect of this. There's a lot of money involved. Being the difference between first and second, or
Hmm.
10th and ninth, is a substantial amount of money. So there's a lot of things that can be gained and lost. And I would say with having an additional team as a part of the grid and splitting that prize money now through 11 teams versus 10 teams, could also have impact. So I could understand Mercedes not wanting to be like, yeah, we have this, we figured it out. I mean, last year when McLaren got really quick, a lot of people were suspecting that they're doing some interesting heating and cooling with their brakes to keep their tires longer. And so, I think there's always going to be the rumor when there's one car that's just dominating.
Yeah.
And I will say, I do think it'll be interesting because Ferrari's obviously bringing back the flexi wing, the flippy wing
Flexi,
for
flippy wing.
flexi, flippy, whatever. I don't. The Macarena. The funny thing is calling it the Macarena wing is like the farthest I would consider like using as a way to describe it. Like I understand it we've talked
Yeah.
about it a few times, but I do think Ferrari has a pretty competitive car. So if they can find ways to unlock a little bit more horsepower out of their engine and get their aero right, I do think that we could probably by Miami see them very, very competitive, which
Hmm.
they're already competitive comparatively to the rest of the field. McLaren, what was it? The safety car has done more laps than
Yeah. The
McLaren's have this
McLaren.
season.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tough start, but they'll bounce back. I'm sure they're just getting it figured out.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting to see if they're able to prove that Mercedes is sandbagging. And I'm sure there's probably there's their story and the story we hear, and then what actually happened. So I'm sure
Hmm.
if they are doing it to an extent, hopefully that gets solved. And if not, well, at least once again, they've proven that they're not cheating.
You never know. Honestly, in this sport, you never know.
Yeah, and that definitely lines us up to it was an interesting headline, and someone was talking about it, and they're saying that, with continuing with kind of talking about Mercedes, they're saying that, with Russell and Antonelli doing really well already, are we going to see another Piastri Norris season? And Mercedes famously knows what happens when you have two drivers and you have to pick a number, you have to, you can't let them race. Mercedes knows that all too
Hmm.
well. So it was interesting to see that come out because I just don't see that as like George Russell's style, just as a driver, as well as Kimi Antonelli making a big stink about it. I mean, everybody wants to win, and everybody wants to win
Hmm.
a driver's champion. It's interesting that people are talking about it. I just don't see it as a team dynamic, especially with both those being Mercedes drivers. They've come up through the Mercedes Academy. I think everybody knows the heartbreak that was Nico Rosberg and Hamilton.
Yeah.
And that got fixed really well when they're like, you guys crash one more time and you're all paying for it out of your own pocket.
I sorted them real quick.
Yeah, yeah. I'll stop crashing the car if I have to pay for the repairs.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
go ahead.
I don't know. I think there is some benefit right now of just running whoever's car's running better, have them up in first. I think, however, I do think there is some benefit of like having a number one because you just know
Mhm.
where the priority lies. But I also don't want to see what happened to Bottas that one time where he was about to win and then he had to let Hamilton through. That was
Mm,
sad.
yeah.
Remember that?
Hmm. Yeah.
What do you think?
What do I think about like Mercedes having, I'm hoping for, this is such a good, with the car and where Mercedes is currently positioned now. We've only watched two races, so it gets kind of tough to be like, yeah, Mercedes is going to win everything. Right now, they look to have the dominant engine, the dominant car. So obviously, it's
Yeah.
easy to speculate that they're probably going to have, at best, it's going to be a fight between them and Ferrari for the championship and possibly a driver's championship, right? And so it's cool to see that like this could be George Russell's best year and opportunity to win a driver's title, which I think would be really cool to see. He's been a solid driver his entire career, so it'd be really cool that within this kind of vacuum of new regulations that he's able to get one in.
I think that would be cool for George Russell. I agree with that.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because are we going to see another like couple years of just Mercedes dominance like we did previous seasons? Obviously Red Bull, they need to figure out some things, Formula
Just
One
a few things.
and other racing as well. Count your tires, I guess.
We
One,
shouldn't
two,
even have
six. Okay,
had.
well, yeah, we used we used like that many. I don't know.
I don't know. Three
I was
drivers, three times two. No.
Yeah, I will say the Nico Rosberg Hamilton is a really good segue into episode 3 of Drive to Survive. One, because it came up to it. Episode 3 is it's titled The Number One Problem, and it really kind of shadows Lando and Oscar at the beginning of the season, and them both being in contention for the driver's title, as well as McLaren kind of taking the not so popular opinion of, well, let them race. We're not going to pick a number one, and I think Mercedes had some heartburn over that, as well as some other teams. So, like, we know where this ends. There was Montreal. There was contact between Lando did a really weird overtake and just put it in the wall there. So it was kind of sad. He was having a tough first couple races of the season. It was looking, a lot of us really thought that Oscar was going to probably be the next driver champion. So it's really interesting kind of showing them too, and how, McLaren has really said, no, let them race. We only have one rule, and that's don't crash into each other, basically. Right.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. But it was really interesting seeing the kind of two different stories as they unfold. And hopefully we'll get to come back to it a little bit later in the season as, right at the last season, right at the kind of the mid break is when, Lando really started finding his groove, and Piastri was just having a hard time connecting the dots. So I hope that we kind of come back to it a little bit later, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that was very interesting dynamic. Personally, I do think having like a 1 and 2 helps, but in that situation, especially in that situation where they clearly, the strife and the uncertainty, I don't know what to say strife, but like the uncertainty was definitely affecting their driving. I think you have some drivers that can kind of just like, they're like, whatever, and push through. And then I think some can get really in their head. That was kind of happening with the McLarens. So maybe some of that role structure would have been helpful, but would it have, if they chose Oscar's number one, would Lando have had as successful of a season? Or, it's hard to tell sometimes. Those things, we only see a portion of it. We don't see the inside meetings and.
Yeah, we can speculate though.
Yeah, oh yeah, I could totally.
Hello, I'd like to win. No, I'd like to win. All right, well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. It's my turn to win today.
First one to the mailbox and back gets to be number one driver. Go.
Go.
Yeah, I did like. It's a really good episode, and like I said, it did kind of bring up the like heartburn with Mercedes back in the day. And those two drivers, which is kind of interesting because obviously it kind of ties in really well because obviously they're already talking about it at Mercedes again, so
Yeah.
we'll see. But I'm glad that it did work out, and it was interesting seeing kind of the progression of Lando really starting to find his groove in the in the episodes. Obviously it's edited and cut together to make it look like, I'm sure they probably embellished that he wasn't doing as good. I mean, and so, but I did think it was kind of an interesting put together of all of that, plus kind of bringing in that other story.
Yeah, it was an interesting episode. I just love that he got the nickname No Win Lando's or Lando No Wins or whatever. I was
Yeah,
like that's kind of brutal to
that's tough. Yeah.
start the season with that nickname,
Hmm.
but I guess it fueled him essentially.
Yeah.
Lit a fire to get a win. Yeah, it was interesting. Finish it.
That's our show. Oh.
Oh, thanks for watching.
This can go in the blooper reel. Yeah, that's our show. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow us on all our socials. Like and subscribe. You know what to do. This week, the Japanese Grand Prix will be coming up, so we'll have episode detailing everything later this week about the Japanese Grand Prix and anything to keep an eye on. And then we'll obviously always have our race recap after the race. So stay tuned for that as well.
Well,
Yeah.
good.
Stop recording.